Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Catherine and this is Raspberry Reads. Today I have a tag video for you, and this is the Christmas music tag. So I'm wearing a festive red scarf to try and get into the festive season for this video. And this tag was created by Daniela over at Uncommon Reader and Renee at Beyond Books. And thank you to Daniela for tagging me. And this is quite a fun video to film, and certainly getting me in the mood to decorate my house soon. We'll make sure to include all the prompts and sort of information bits in the description below for you if you'd like to do this tag. But yeah, so let's just get started. So the first prompt is Joy to the World, a book that brings you so much joy that you want the whole world to read it. And this one, I think, is going to have to be The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I'm sure in my wrap-up video that I'll film at some point of my top books of the year, The House in the Cerulean Sea will make it up there. And I've talked about it before on my channel, but it's just such a heartwarming book. It's accessible. I think any audience can read it. It's got a really nice sort of moral messaging in it, lots about sort of found family, friendship, resilience, and sort of otherness and accepting your differences. And if you're not familiar with it, it's basically about a social worker who goes to visit a house of magical children and sort of forms a relationship with them and sort of helps them on their journey. And yeah, I loved it, and I think that it would bring joy to the whole world. So that's my response for the first prompt. The second prompt is Let It Snow, a book that takes place in a cold, snowy environment. And the first one that came to mind is a Robert Munsch book called 50 Below Zero. And I read this growing up, and basically it's about a boy whose name escapes me, Jason. And Jason's father sleepwalks, and Jason keeps finding his father in all sorts of unusual places, so on the top of the refrigerator. But he ends up going out into the snow, and it's minus 50 outside. And I just love all of the illustrations with him bundled up, because it reminds me so much of my childhood being bundled up. And indeed, when I lived in Saskatchewan, I was bundled up like that a lot. So yeah, this book just reminds me of the cold winters in Canada. Prompt number 3 is You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, a book with a mean character or one that you just didn't like. And I thought of Sadie Goodenough in Tracy Chevalier's At the Edge of the Orchard. I've spoken about this book before on my channel. It's a book set in kind of pioneer era America, and I can't remember what territory it is. But in any case, the family has an orchard, and the mother, the wife in that, is named Sadie, and she is just a very toxic character. Don't get me wrong, she has her own struggles, and some of her behavior is understandable, but she's still very manipulative and just scheming, and not a very nice person at all. And so yeah, I would liken her to the Grinch. Prompt number 4 is Santa Claus is Coming to Town, a book releasing soon that you can't wait to read. And it's not soon necessarily, it's coming out in May, but Robert McFarlane has a new book called Is a River Alive? And it's a whole exploration about river systems, and I'm sure the kind of cultural significance, ecological significance, that sort of thing. I love his writing, so I'm looking forward to that book. Prompt number 5, 12 Days of Christmas, a book of short stories. And yeah, so I don't really read short stories that often. So I guess my response to that would be, could you recommend to me a book of short stories? The only short story book that I read this year is by Claire Keegan, Antarctica, and I did like some of the stories in that, but I do like Claire Keegan's writing, but I don't think I would necessarily recommend Antarctica as a whole. It didn't really gel with me, all of the stories. So I had to pause 1 second because I had my lovely postie at the door. But okay, so where was I? Yeah, so I mentioned that Claire Keegan, short stories, but I wouldn't really recommend Antarctica. So if you have any good short stories that you think I might enjoy, then I'd love to hear about them. Prompt number 6 is The Little Drummer Boy, a book that brings back childhood memories. And on my shelf, I have this book called Classic Fairy Tales. And I got this for my 2nd birthday from my grandma and Opa. And I just really like it. It was a bit spooky, I must admit, but I did like looking at the pictures in it. Like that one. And I think there's a Hansel and Gretel in here. There's a Snow White illustration. But yeah, I just really like this book. I think it looks very eye-catching on my bookshelf, and I do enjoy the stories in it. Prompt number 7 is Deck the Halls, a book that has a party scene or takes place over a holiday. So I immediately thought of Still Life by Sarah Winman. This is one of my favorite books ever. And there's a really beautiful Christmas scene set in Italy in this book, and everybody sort of comes together and lots of reuniting, and it's just wonderful. So yes, if you haven't read Still Life, out of all of the books that I'm talking about today, this is the one that I would suggest getting to first. And then the last prompt is Frosty the Snowman, a book with a character who is cold and calculating. I just finished reading, finally, Birnam Wood by Eleanor Catton, and the billionaire character named Robert Lemoyne in here, ooh, he's a cold and calculating person. The whole book is basically about how really he is cold and calculating, and yeah, it was just wonderful. So, well, his character was wonderful in the sense that he was so well written. Sorry if you can hear the dishwasher beeping. I will talk about Birnam Wood in full in a wrap-up video soon, but yeah, if you like to read about nasty characters, then I would recommend Birnam Wood. And then the last prompt, I think, was asking about a holiday tradition. Every year I bake butter tarts, which are a Canadian classic. And I can leave a link to my blog that has that recipe on there. And I also tend to bake shortbread, and that has been passed down, that recipe and tradition has been passed down from my grandmother to my dad. And then he made the shortbread every year. And then now that he's passed away, I tend to make a couple of rounds. It's the Scottish shortbread where you make it in the big wheel. And then I think my mum and my brother also bake some in Canada as well. So yeah, those are my two traditions. And in terms of tagging some lovely people, so I'd like to tag Tristan, I'd like to tag Ellen, then yeah, thinking of 2 others, Libraries and Lattes. I hope you're doing well after all of the bad weather you've had, and Nikki at My Messy Bookshelf. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you 4, and I hope you are getting into the festive spirit if you celebrate. And yeah, that just leaves me to say once again, thank you to Daniela and Renee for creating this book tag. It was really fun to think about and to do. And I will see you all soon in a new video. Take care. Bye-bye.